This happened a few months ago when I decided to take a solo trip into the Appalachian Mountains. I'm Jake, 35, a hiking enthusiast and freelance photographer. I wanted to escape the noise of the city and find some inspiration for my photography. It was meant to be a relaxing adventure, but I've never stopped thinking about it. I set up camp on my second night amidst the towering pines. It was quiet, just me and the woods. I looked around and noticed strange carvings on the tree trunks. At the time, I thought they were just old marks from other campers. I brushed it off. Then I heard it, a rhythmic thumping in the distance. It sent a chill down my spine. I strained to see where it was coming from, but nothing was there. It felt like the woods had swallowed the sound, leaving me with an eerie silence. That night, the thumping returned, louder this time. I tried to shake it off, but my heart raced. I told myself it could just be the wind. Deep down, though, I didn't believe it. I wrapped myself in my sleeping bag, trying to ignore the thought that something was watching me from the dark. The following day, I hiked deeper into the mountains, trying to shake off my unease. I met an old local at a small general store. He had a weathered face and piercing eyes. His voice trembled as he shared stories of travelers who vanished in these woods, people like me. "You should leave before nightfall," he warned. I laughed it off, but that knot in my stomach tightened. That night, the thumping echoed again, right outside my tent. My skin crawled, and my heart raced. I had to know what it was. I stepped out, flashlight in hand. The light bounced off the trees, but there was nothing there. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my pounding heart. Then I saw them, shadowy figures darting between the trees. I froze. My mind screamed this had to be a trick. I blinked, and they were gone, just darkness and the sound of my breath. I hurried back to my tent, my heart racing even faster. Each night brought something new, symbols buried in the dirt, more carvings on the trees, and whispers that seemed to call my name. I told myself they were figments of my imagination, but the feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. One night, I woke up to a soft voice saying, "Why are you here?" I turned, but nobody was there. Just empty space and stillness. I felt like I was losing my mind. I tried to rationalize it, but it didn't help. I was trapped in a place that felt wrong. The next morning, I packed my things quickly. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wanted me gone. I hurried down the trail, my head swimming with everything I had experienced. Even now, I can't explain it. The woods felt alive, and I can still hear those whispers calling out to me. I don't think I'll return to those mountains. I really don't. I didn't stop walking until the sun dipped low on the horizon. My legs ached, but that didn't matter. The memories of the night pressed heavily on my mind. Every snap of a twig made me look over my shoulder. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me. As I rounded a bend, I came across a clearing I hadn't seen before. The ground was covered in damp leaves and what looked like scorch marks. They radiated outward, almost like a circle burned into the earth. My heart pounded. I remembered the tales the old man had shared with me. The thought rattled through my mind. What if something unnatural had happened here? I scoured the perimeter, anxiety curling inside me. Then I noticed something glimmering near the edge of the clearing. Cautiously, I approached it. It was a small metal object partially buried in the ground. I knelt down and brushed away the dirt. It was a locket, tarnished and old, with intricate designs on its surface. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside, there was a faded photograph. A woman with an unsettling smile and eyes that seemed to follow me. I quickly snapped the locket shut. That's when I heard the sound. A low, haunting hum. It seemed to vibrate through the clearing, filling the air with an oppressive weight. The whispers I had heard at night came back, clearer now. They wove together into a chilling melody, almost like a warning. I jumped to my feet and turned to run, but a sudden chill stopped me in my tracks. To my right, between the trees, stood a figure cloaked in shadows. I couldn't see their face, but I felt their gaze cutting into me. It was the same feeling I had when I first heard the thumping outside my tent. Fear gripped me, and every instinct screamed to flee. Before I could move, the figure stepped forward, breaking the spell. I squinted through the dim light, but the figure melted back into the shadows, leaving only the echoes of that hum hanging in the air. I stumbled backward, adrenaline surging. I wanted to scream, to shout for help, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. I needed to get out. I propelled myself from the clearing, the whispers spiraling into a chaotic crescendo behind me. As I ran, I clenched the locket tightly in my hand, its sharp edges biting into my skin. I knew I was venturing into something deeper than I had imagined. The woods pulsated with an energy that felt alive, and I was at the center of it. Minutes later, breathless and terrified, I found the trail. It wasn't long before I collapsed against a tree to catch my breath. I tried to calm my racing heart, but all I could think about was the figure and that haunting melody. What had I stumbled into? Just then, a sharp crack in the branches nearby made my blood run cold. I glanced up to see the shadowy figure again, but this time it wasn't alone. I was surrounded. My heart sank. They were closing in, and I had nowhere to run. I spun around, frantically scanning the perimeter for an escape route. There were too many of them. My hands shook as I clutched the locket. The shadows flickered in and out of my vision, shifting like smoke. I was frozen in place, lost between the fear of the unknown and the need to survive. "Please," I whispered, my voice barely a breath. I didn't know who or what they were, but in that moment I felt utterly powerless. One of the figures stepped closer, their outline becoming more defined. I could see the edge of a face, pale and ghostly, but its features were hidden deep in shadow. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the clearing, rustling the leaves. My instinct kicked in. I turned and sprinted in the opposite direction, branches clawing at my arms. I wasn't looking back. I couldn't. The sounds of soft footsteps and the eerie hum followed me, weaving in and out of the rustling trees. I dashed onto the narrow trail, desperate for a sense of safety. Then I heard it. A voice smooth and clear calling my name. "Come back!" I stumbled, nearly losing my footing. It was not the voice of one of the shadowy figures. It felt familiar, maybe from a dream. My heart raced. Who was calling me? I pressed on, fueled by a mix of fear and curiosity. The further I ran, the louder the melody became. It twisted through the trees, wrapping around me like a vine. It was both beautiful and horrific, a lure drawing me closer to the source. My pulse quickened. Was I losing my mind? The trees began to thin, and I skidded to a stop at the edge of a small brook. The water flowed swiftly, lit by the dappled light of the fading day. I stumbled to the bank, panting heavily. My reflection rippled in the water, and then something in the depths caught my attention. A glint, like a beacon beckoning me closer. I knelt down, my heart hammering as I peered into the brook. The glint wasn't just a rock, it was a smaller rusted locket, much like the one I had found. It lay there, partially submerged, as if waiting for me. I reached out, my hand trembling. That's when I heard the rustling again. My heart twisted with dread. The shadows were back, emerging from the trees, but this time they were not alone. Standing beside them was a woman. Her features were sharp and cold, eyes locking onto mine with a fierce intensity. The melody swelled, filling the air with a haunting harmony. "Why did you take that locket?" she asked, her voice echoing off the water. Panic surged in me. It was as if she could see right through me, reading my thoughts, my fear. I stared back in silence, the rusted locket in my hand feeling heavier by the second. I had stumbled into something far more complicated than I could have ever imagined. Before I could respond, the brook's water surged violently, crashing against the banks. I felt a force pulling at my feet, a sensation that made my heart drop. and then everything went dark. I gasped as I broke the surface of whatever darkness had engulfed me. I was no longer beside the brook, but in a different place entirely. The air was disorientingly thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. My heart raced as I pushed myself up from the ground, trying to orient myself. I rose on shaky legs and surveyed my surroundings. I was in what looked like a cave, the walls glistening with moisture. A dim light flickered in the distance, casting long shadows that danced around me. I instinctively reached for the locket, still clutched tightly in my hand, feeling its weight anchor me to reality. "Where am I?" I muttered, my voice echoing in the hollow space. My breath sounded louder than I expected. I felt utterly lost. The flickering light drew me closer, compelling me despite the sudden chill that crept up my spine. I tread carefully, each step cautious on the uneven ground. As I rounded a corner, I stumbled into a wider chamber. My eyes widened as I took in the sight before me. Along the walls were engravings, old and worn, depicting figures that looked similar to the shadows I had seen before. They were intertwined with the imagery of luminous locket-like objects. I shivered, recognizing the locket in my hand again mirrored in their strange designs. A low hum resonated around me, the same as the eerie melody from before. Could it be coming from the light? I approached it, heart pounding in my chest. The closer I got, I could see it was an illuminated orb, suspended in mid-air. It pulsated with a rhythmic glow, and I felt a pull, like it was connected to something inside me. The cave's air thickened, and suddenly the shadows I recognized from the forest emerged behind me, their forms shifting almost playfully. "You found something. A key." The woman's voice echoed from the darkness. I turned, and she was there again, the shadows swirling around her like a cloak. "What is this place? What do you want from me?" I demanded, trying to sound brave. My fear was racing with curiosity, and I needed answers. "The locket you took belongs to us," she stated, her voice steady as she stepped into the light. Her eyes glimmered with something unnameable, and I felt the intensity of her gaze pressing against me. "You awakened something you don't understand. The balance has shifted." "Awakened what?" I stammered. "Your presence here means you must choose," she continued, tilting her head. "The river flows in two directions. You can join us or return empty-handed, but you must decide now." Unease wrapped itself around me, choking my thoughts. I glanced back at the glowing orb. It felt like a part of me was calling out to it. It was a chance to know the truth, to understand why I had been drawn to the locket in the first place. But the formidable shadows kept swirling, their presence weighing heavily on me. I felt trapped between the known fear of their darkness and the unknown light of the orb. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could form the words, the ground beneath me trembled. A low roar echoed, and the chamber shifted like a living thing. Hints of pale faces and hollow eyes emerged from the stone, watching me. Then I realized I was running out of time. I pushed myself back, shaking my head as I tried to process everything. The walls pulsed, and the faces in the stone flickered as if they were alive, hungry for whatever decision I would make. My heart raced. The choice felt monumental, but the weight of uncertainty crushed down on me. "Join us," the woman urged, her voice soft yet urgent. "Together we can restore balance. You have a part to play." Her shadows wriggled, reaching toward me, their elongated fingers almost beckoning. "Restore balance?" I repeated, feeling the words stick in my throat. "What does that even mean?" Before she could answer, the ground quaked again, sending small rocks tumbling down. A sharp crack echoed through the chamber. I looked to the orb. It flickered wildly now, its glow dimming and brightening in rhythm with the tremors. I took a step back, raw fear coursing through me. Suddenly, a sharp, piercing shriek filled the air, cutting through the low hum. I turned to find one of the shadow figures emerging from the wall. It had an almost human shape, yet its features were blurred and shrouded in darkness. It moved closer, and I felt my breath hitch. "Leave," the figure growled, its voice a deep guttural sound that rumbled through my core. "You do not belong here." Panic surged through me. I stumbled, edging toward the glowing orb, feeling its warmth reach out as if to wrap around me. I was caught between fleeing and stepping into the light. The woman stepped beside the dark figure, and their eyes locked in a silent standoff. "Don't be afraid," she said gently, her focus on me rather than the emerging threat. "The choice is yours, but the forces here cannot be contained forever. Choose wisely." For a moment, everything felt suspended. The chamber fell silent, save for my raspy breaths. I glanced at the figure again. It seemed to pulse with anger, shadows swirling fiercely around its form. Then I realized something. The designs on the wall, the figures, they were not just art. They were warnings. I turned back to the orb, its allure stronger than ever, and felt the locket in my hand glow a little brighter. It was as if the two were linked, an invitation to step into a new world. "Please," I called out, my voice trembling, "tell me what happens if I join you." The woman's expression softened. "Together, we can fight the darkness that threatens the flow of magic in this land. If you return, you'll lose that connection forever." The screaming figure loomed closer, and I felt its anger churn the air around me like a storm. I had to decide fast. Just then, the ground split open beside me with a deafening crack, revealing an abyss that seemed to stretch on forever. Before I could react, something pushed me toward the orb, a force I didn't understand yet couldn't resist. Then everything went dark. I gasped as I fell through the darkness. The sensation was like being swept away in a roaring river, rushing and spinning without a care for where it pulled me. I lost track of time, but eventually a burst of light enveloped me, casting away the shadows that had clung so tightly. I landed hard on solid ground. I blinked against the brightness and scrambled to my feet. I found myself in a vast forest, trees towering high above me, their leaves shimmering in an oddly golden hue. The air felt electric, buzzing with energy. Where was I? My heart was racing, and fear crept in slowly, like the chill of an early morning. I turned, trying to find a familiar landmark, but nothing looked the same. This place felt alien, yet strangely welcoming. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. There was no reply. I stepped forward cautiously, my heart still pounding. As I moved through the forest, I noticed the ground was different, soft with thick layers of moss that muffled my footsteps. I tried to focus on my surroundings, my mind racing with thoughts of the chamber and the woman with shadows. Was this part of her world? Suddenly, I heard a rustling nearby. I froze, my instincts screaming at me to take cover, but curiosity got the better of me, and I inched closer to the noise. A low growl rumbled through the air, and my heart skipped a beat. Emerging from the foliage was a creature I could hardly comprehend. It was wolf-like, yet its fur shimmered with the same golden light as the leaves. Its eyes were piercing and glowed with an otherworldly intelligence. It stared at me, assessing, as if deciding whether I was friend or foe. "Stay back!" I yelled, and the sound surprised me. I had no idea if I could threaten this thing. But it halted, cocking its head to the side, curious rather than aggressive. Then, to my shock, it spoke. "You shouldn't be here." The voice was low, almost melodic, as if it belonged to the wind itself. "Right, I'm trying to leave," I stammered, searching for a way to explain. "I stumbled into the chamber," it finished for me, its gaze intensifying. "You crossed the boundary, did you not?" I nodded, suddenly unsure if it was wise to admit such a thing. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to understand. The woman, she said I could help. The choice you made does not come without consequence, the creature warned. The forest recognizes your presence, but the shadows will notice it too. Before I could respond, the air shifted. The sounds of rustling grew louder, and I felt a chill sweep through the trees, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. I spun back, my stomach dropping. Dark shapes began to flicker between the trees, moving in with an unsettling grace. I wasn't alone. "Run," the golden-furred wolf urged, its eyes darting toward the approaching darkness. "Now." I didn't need to be told twice. Adrenaline surged through me, and I took off deeper into the woods. As I ran, I could hear the whispers behind me, cold and mocking, threatening to pull me back into the depths of despair. But the deeper I went, the more I could feel the connection to the orb calling to me, urging me forward. What had I gotten myself into? The forest twisted around me as I ran, branches reaching for me like skeletal hands. I could hear the creature's footsteps falling silently behind me, but I didn't dare look back. My lungs burned as I pushed forward, fueled by instinct and fear. The trees began to thin, revealing a pathway that wound deeper into the heart of the forest. A faint glow pulled at me from ahead, shimmering like the remnants of a sunset. The thought of finding something, a way out or some kind of answers, spurred me on. "Stay close." I heard the wolf's voice ring out behind me, firm with an urgency I couldn't dismiss. I stole a glance over my shoulder. The darkness was creeping closer, growing more solid. The shadows had formed now, figures whose outlines were shifting as though they were caught between existence and oblivion. Panic clawed at my throat, but I forced myself to focus on the path ahead. What if I didn't find an escape? What if I was running to my end? Then, without warning, the ground beneath me buckled. I stumbled, falling onto my knees as the forest floor opened up like a mouth ready to swallow me whole. My heart leaped into my throat. Just as I braced for a fall, the wolf was beside me, its golden fur shimmering even in the dim light. "Grab my paw," it shouted. I stretched out my hand, instinctively reaching for the creature. The moment our contact was made, a jolt of energy coursed through me, steadying my fall. "Hold on." With a powerful tug, it pulled me up, and the ground stabilized once again beneath my feet. "Why is this happening?" I gasped, breathless and trembling. "What are those things?" "They are the shadows, the guardians of this realm." The wolf's eyes shimmered with unspoken fear. "But they are not the true danger here." I could hardly process that. "What do you mean?" Before it could answer, a bone-chilling howl erupted from the shadows, a sound that set my nerves ablaze. The darkness swirled, and out of it surged a figure cloaked in shifting darkness. Unlike the rest, it held a menacing shape, a nightmare carved straight from my anxieties. It threw back its head and laughed, a sound that echoed through the trees like the sound of shattering glass. I took a step back, heart racing. "What do you want from me?" "You're out of your depth, little one," the creature said, its voice silky and dripping with malice. "You don't belong here, and yet you've come at a perfect time." "What do you mean?" I stammered, feeling cold sweat trickle down my spine. The figure pointed a long, shadowy finger towards the golden-furred wolf. "You can help us, you know. We want to take back what belongs to us." "What are you talking about?" I yelled, the panic rising to a peak. Then everything shifted again. The ground shook. The wolf stood protectively in front of me, its posture tense. "You need to choose," it said. "We cannot fight them alone." My heart thundered in my chest as I stood there, torn. What choice did I even have? The shadows were closing in, the howl still reverberating through the trees, and I was running out of time. That's when I saw it. A pulsing light, deep in the forest, an answer perhaps, calling me back to the orb. But as I turned to run toward it, I heard the dark figure whisper, "You can't escape your fate." I didn't look back. I couldn't. I dashed through the trees, and the weight of choice settled heavily on my shoulders as I fought my way towards the unknown. The pulsing light grew brighter as I hurried through the underbrush. My heartbeat mingled with the sounds of the forest, crackling twigs, rustling leaves, and the ever-present threat of the shadows behind me. Each step felt like a race against time, a desperate attempt to outrun what lurked in that darkness. I pushed harder, the branches scraping at my arms and legs, but I hardly noticed. My focus was solely on the glow. As I neared it, I could faintly make out shapes shifting around the light. My instinct screamed at me to stop, to turn back, but I pressed on. What if it's a trap? The wolf's voice echoed in my mind. Fear surged up again, but I tried to shake it off. I had to believe this light led to something, anything that could help us. Finally, I burst into a clearing. The light pulsed from an orb resting on a bed of moss. Mist swirled lazily around it, and I felt an odd sense of calm wash over me. This must be the answer, I thought. What is it? I whispered, cautiously stepping closer. The orb looked almost alive, shimmering with hues I couldn't comprehend. My hand trembled as I reached out, and just before I touched it, a shadow lunged from the tree line. "Don't," the wolf shouted, but I was too late. My fingers brushed against the orb, and in an instant, the world around me exploded into color. Visions flashed through my mind, scenes from the forest, moments I didn't recognize but felt deeply. I saw the shadows, their struggle and their whispers of pain. I caught echoes of their past, battles lost long ago, and a bond to this land that seemed unbreakable. And then there was a voice, deep and resonant. "You awaken what lies dormant. Choose, child of light, choose." My heart pounded. I didn't understand what this meant. The clash of memories, the shadows closing in, and the wolf's urgent presence at my side, all blended into chaos. "Choose what?" I yelled into the void, desperation spilling into my voice. But the orb pulsated again, and suddenly I was pulled back into the clearing, gasping for breath. The shadows, once menacing figures, stood still, watching. The dark figure from before stepped forward, its form wavering. "That light is a part of this realm," it said, its tone warped yet captivating. "You must decide if you will help us reclaim our place or let the suffering continue." Confusion settled heavily in my mind. I glanced at the wolf, searching for guidance. It met my gaze with fierce determination. "We can't give up hope," it murmured, as if reading my thoughts. But doubts dug into me. "How can I even help?" I asked, my voice trembling. The darkness felt suffocating. The dark figure grinned widely, a chilling glimmer in its eyes. "You already have, but the true test lies ahead." Before I could register that statement, the entire clearing warped, the ground shifting beneath my feet. I felt a pull, a gravitational force drawing me toward the shadows again. And in that moment, I knew the encounter wasn't over. Just as I teetered on the brink of despair, the wolf growled low and fierce, "Whatever you do, don't lose yourself to the darkness." But the shadows closed in then, and I had only one thought. I had to fight to find my own way out. The shadows enveloped me, a thick blanket of darkness that felt alive. Panic surged as I stumbled backward, trying to escape their grip. I could hear the wolf's frantic breaths beside me, its form a comforting presence in the chaos. And yet, the shadows whispered, filling my mind with threats I couldn't comprehend. "Trust your instincts," the wolf urged, barking to cut through the noise. "Remember the light." I took a deep breath. The orb had shown me something important, hadn't it? I had felt the pain of the shadows, their desperate longing for a place that felt real. "I won't let you suffer anymore," I yelled, the words spilling out in determination. The shadows hesitated, their whispers fading into an unsettling silence. I wasn't sure if it was enough, but it felt right. A ripple coursed through the darkness, like a wave of fear mixed with curiosity. Then from the depth of shadows, a figure emerged, one I hadn't seen before. It was smaller than the dark figure, with bright eyes that seemed to shine like stars against the black. "You have a choice," it said, its voice a soft melody contrast to the surrounding gloom. "You can fight for us or succumb to the fear that binds you." "Fight for you," I echoed, skepticism creeping into my voice. I looked back at the wolf, hoping for reassurance. It nodded, its fur bristling with resolve. "Yes," the small figure continued, its form flickering like a candle flame. "You have the light within you. Use it. Together we can push the shadows away." "What if I fail?" I asked, the thought making my chest tighten. I could feel the weight of everyone's hopes resting on my shoulders. "Then we will rise again," it said simply, "but you must decide to act." A surge of courage filled me and I nodded. "All right, I'll try." I sensed the wolf tensing beside me, ready to leap at the first sign of danger. "Close your eyes," the figure instructed. I complied, breathing in deeply. Silence enveloped me, and for a few seconds I felt a weight lift. My fear was still present, but it felt distant now. "Focus on the light," the figure whispered. "What does it mean to you?" My mind flashed back to the orb, its vibrant colors, the warmth washing over me. I thought of the forest's whispers, of the battles etched into every tree and shadow. I could feel their longing and pain. It pulled at something deep inside me, a shared connection unlike anything I had ever known. With my eyes still shut, I concentrated. The warmth expanded, radiating through my body. "I'm with you," I declared, determined to let my light shine. Suddenly the shadows flickered, retreating ever so slightly. The air grew heavy again, but this time a fight was at my fingertips. "Now, unleash it," the small figure urged. I burst forth with a cry, channeling all my energy into a radiant beam of light that blazed from my hands. The shadows shrieked, writhing in reaction. Gradually, they began to pull back. "This is just the beginning," the wolf shouted, a glimmer of hope igniting in its eyes. As triumph surged within me, my victory felt hollow. There was still more at stake. Just then, a deep rumble echoed through the clearing. The shadows were not just retreating, they were regrouping, waiting for their next move. That's when I saw it, a massive shadow figure rising from the ground, darker than anything I had ever faced. "You cannot escape me," it roared, and with a single sweep of its arm, the very ground beneath me began to quake. I realized the battle was far from over. I felt the tremors beneath my feet as the shadows shifted. The looming figure towered over me, and for a moment, despair washed over my body. I was drenched in uncertainty, faced with a darkness that seemed insurmountable. But then, the golden-furred wolf stepped beside me, eyes fierce with determination. "Focus," it urged softly. "This is the moment you were meant for." The memories of the orb and the connections I'd forged flooded back. The light surged within me, roaring like a wildfire. "We can do this," I whispered, more to myself than to the others. "I just need to believe." Drawing a deep breath, I raised my hands, calling upon the light that thrummed through my core. It ignited, brilliant and enduring, casting warmth into the chilling shadows. The darkness around me quivered, drawn to the beacon of courage I was creating. "Now!" the small figure shouted, and I unleashed my energy, pouring every ounce of resolve I had into the light. It erupted forth, crashing into the descending shadow as it fell like a wave against the shore. For a moment, both light and dark clashed, creating a swirl of colors that enveloped us. I could feel the power coursing through me, merging with the forces of the forest that surrounded us. The dark figure growled, its silhouette shaking, but the shadows lashed out, desperate to swallow the light. The balance must be restored. It roared, its voice filled with rage and fear. I could feel the weight of choice pressing on my shoulders again. "Why do you want to keep us trapped in this cycle?" I shouted back, frustration boiling inside me. "You can't control everything." The figure hesitated, caught off guard. I seized the moment, focusing hard on the emotions woven through the darkness swirling around us. "You're scared," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos. "But we don't have to be enemies." "Enough!" it bellowed, pushing against the light, an onslaught unlike anything I'd experienced before. The shadows roared back to life, fierce and ferocious, pushing closer and closer. Sweating, shaking, I felt my resolve wavering. The darkness promised security as well as a twisted form of power. I glanced at the wolf. It stood grim and watchful, but I noticed something else. The shadows danced around its legs as if they recognized it yet feared it. "Together!" I screamed, raising my hands higher, drawing the strength from those around me. I knew what I needed to do. We must work with them, not against them. The moment I shifted my mental focus, the shadows froze momentarily. I could see the confusion in their depths. The fierce winds tugged at my energy, threatening to snuff it out. But instead, I offered my light to them, scattering it like pieces of myself. "I want to help." With that declaration, the fields around us shimmered violently, and in response, a flicker of hesitation washed over the dark figure. "You would offer yourself to us?" I nodded, desperately searching for understanding in the depths of its eyes. "If this is a battle for balance, I can be part of that balance. I want to help you remember." And then the world around us exploded into entropy. Light and dark intertwined in a chaotic dance, merging into a tapestry of colors. The air vibrated, echoing with memories of countless travelers, the pain of their loss, and the hope intertwined within each whisper of the forest. The pulse of my heartbeat synced with theirs, and suddenly, I was no longer an outsider. The shadows began to shift, retreating in tandem with my light, responding to my call. A shift occurred deep within me as I realized I could embrace both. I wasn't here simply to combat the darkness. I was meant to understand it, to lead both sides toward harmony. The realization solidified my intent. The dark figure snarled, but now the air hummed with mutual recognition. "You dare tread where others have feared?" "Yes," I replied, my voice steady. "To fear is to remain lost. Together, we can find our way back home." In that moment of profound connection, the air thickened with understanding, and a strange calm washed over the shadows. The pulsing force of magic began to weave a bridge between them and me, binding our fates. The shadows bowed, retreating slightly as if allowing the light to weave around them. Their dark shapes flickered, revealing hints of what they had once been, lost souls, frightened yet yearning for release. The dark figure loomed larger, and for the first time I noticed traces of vulnerability within its fierce expression. You would truly do this?" "Yes," I breathed out, feeling the raw strength of my conviction stabilizing me. "Together, we can restore what's been broken." The shadows quivered, and then I felt the temperature shift. The cold indifference evaporated, and the light enveloped the darkness, creating a silhouetted tapestry that spoke of unity, of shared stories, of the intertwining of legacies. Gradually, the shadows merged into the light, and the air lifted. The ground stopped trembling as the remnants of what had been clashed now into what could be, a harmony echoing just beneath the surface. As the light softened, I opened my eyes. I stood in the clearing, the forest alive once more, the connection among us palpable yet delicate. The shadows intermingled with the trees, neither threatening nor obscured, but woven seamlessly into the fabric of the restoration at hand. "Your journey is just beginning," the golden-furred wolf said beside me, voice imbued with hope. "Now you are part of a larger story." I nodded, still grappling with the weight of everything that had unfolded, but also exhilarated by what lay ahead. The questions thrummed in me. What would this balance mean? Would the shadows ever truly forgive? But instead of fear, I felt a flicker of understanding and excitement for what could come. As I stepped forward, I could hear the whispers of the forest dancing in the wind, now a melodious echo guiding me through the trees. Whatever lay ahead was still unknown, but I was no longer afraid to face it. This time, I truly belonged.